On today's show,
Durant could be out for the season. Should OKC gun for that 8th seed or play for the lottery?
we'll take a look back at the incredible 19-year career of Steve Nash.
And with a full head of steam, we'll dive into a new round of Weekend Whoopsies.
It's Monday, March 23rd. The starter starts now.
Good evening, sweet world, and welcome to The Starters. Whether you're joining us live online, you're listening to the podcast, or you're catching us on NBA TV, we're very, very happy to have you. I'm J.E. Skeets, and alongside me, as always, Tess Millis.
March Madness up in here.
To my right, Starters blog editor Trey Kirby.
Hey-o! Hey-o!
And finally, the international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Friends.
Really?
Yes, it is March Madness. I hope you enjoyed the college basketball. But we're back here Monday talking about the NBA. We got a lot to talk about on tonight's show. We'll get to Steve Nash and his official retirement and his legacy on the game. And we got a super edition of Weekend Whoopsies. But first, probably the biggest news from the NBA weekend happened on Friday. And we learned that Kevin Durant is out indefinitely. Thunder GM Sam Presti told the media that KD has been removed from all basketball activities as the team tries to figure out what's causing the persistent soreness there in his surgically repaired right foot. OKC, of course, just killed by injuries this season and now still try to make the playoffs and doing a pretty good job of holding off right now, at least, the Suns and the Pelicans, who are behind them for that 8th seed. But you see there, just a horrible season for Kevin Durant. It is a write-off of a season. Out early in the year, comes back. Did he come back too soon? We can get into that. And then that soreness comes back into play. And here he is, as of now, out indefinitely. It sure feels like he's done for the year, depending on whether or not they get into the playoffs and even how far they would go.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And obviously his foot wasn't healing like they expected it to. There was just a bunch of timelines going on that he didn't fulfill, whether or not he'd be back in a week or 2 weeks. And then I think Serge Ibaka's injury sort of was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Sure.
Serge Ibaka's not going to be around for our first-round playoff series, most likely against the Golden State Warriors, our best defensive player. What are we going to do, with KD coming back? I mean, we're only 19 days away from the postseason.
Yeah.
How great was KD going to be? How great was Serge going to be? How great was this team going to be against a team that's only lost 2 times on their own home floor in the Golden State Warriors, because they're basically locked into the 8th seed. The Thunder are, even if they do make it, you'd have to think that they were going to get mopped by the Golden State Warriors, no matter how you cut it.
Do you agree with that? That even if KD came back, a KD and Westbrook, say, team with no Serge in the mix, would they even beat the Warriors at this point?
Well, I mean, if Kevin Durant could come back 100% and Russell Westbrook could still be 100%, who knows? They could give anybody fits. But, I mean, with a hobbled Kevin Durant trying not to hurt his foot again, I don't think they would stand a chance, and I don't think they stand a chance now, especially without any of their stars.
So just against the Warriors especially.
Oh,
sure.
right.
Any other team, 2 through 7, okay, you can give them a shot, but not against the Warriors. I think that's undermining what Golden State has done this season. They are absolutely incredible. They're first on the defensive end. OKC is outscoring teams, but then they'd have to go up against this great defensive team as well as a team that's third in offense. This team is incredible. They're the best team in basketball. Sorry, Atlanta Hawks.
And you still have a guy in Kevin Durant. I'm with you. This feels like the right decision here to shut him down, because what would happen? Maybe you win another game. Maybe you extend the series versus the Warriors. I don't think a lot of people would pick you beating them. So you've got another year of KD. Let it heal. By all accounts, from every doctor that we've heard, says you can come back from this. You just got to let it heal, and then you should be fine. Give them the time off, come back next year, and then that'll be the real year there where, of course, 2016, the possibility of Durant leaving.
You can imagine right now he's at home stewing over this, thinking, getting that revenge into his mind, because he wants to go out there and prove to everyone that the Thunder are legitimate championship contenders, and we know that they are when they're fully healthy. I mean, if you were to take Steph Curry off the Warriors, they wouldn't be title contenders, I wouldn't think, without him. So it's the same sort of impact. But when you think about it, Kevin Durant, remember, he pulled out of Team USA over the summer because he wanted to just rest. And you wonder if maybe this was something to do with it then. Like, he just had so much stress and workload on his body. He just needed a rest, and he never really was able to get that rest. And even when he did come back, you have those compensation injuries when you put too much weight on one foot or the other, trying to avoid getting hurt. And all that really does is just re-injure you or injure you in another place.
Hindsight totally 2020 with this, him coming back. Because we talked about it at the time. We worried with the Thunder. They were struggling. They were trying to stay in the race. We said, okay, Durant's out. Will he try and come back too soon? Will he give that foot enough time to heal? It is easy to sit here today and go, well, obviously they didn't. He may have thought it was fine.
Right, and
maybe it was. Maybe it was, because it was probably really up to him, right? He probably said, hey, I'm good to go.
Yeah, a huge part of it is going to be him saying, yeah, my foot feels fine, I'm going to push it, but you just can't rest a foot injury enough. It seems like a foot injury kind of always comes back. There's no way to avoid it. You run and jump for your life. And if you're on your feet, that's just going to be bad news bears.
Absolutely. I mean, you see, look at all the guys that have been injured for the Thunder this season. So now what's interesting, of course, with this squad is sort of where do they go from here? They are right now, as of today, in that 8th seed. They're up 2.5 games on the Suns, 3 up on the Pelicans. Do you, if you're a Thunder fan especially, do you want your team to get into the playoffs and maybe battle and put up a fight against the Warriors but eventually lose, or do you almost want them to play for the lottery?
Well, I'm not sure that if you're an OKC fan, you're really looking at the draft and thinking, maybe we can get somebody in the teens that can help us out.
Right.
This team is a championship contender right now, so I think they're not even looking at the draft whatsoever. They're looking at the playoffs and have a little bit of fun against the 1 seed, against the Golden State Warriors. You can watch Russ use every possession and shoot and assist his way to a lot of good games, I'm sure. But they're looking forward to 2015, 2016, when they have their entire roster. And everybody's starting to worry about KDC. Is Kevin Durant going to DC in 2016, his hometown? I think KD, if I would have to guess right now, I think he is just such a basketball purist and kind of old school, and he'd wanted to do it with his guys that he got to this point with. And obviously, not just him, but this team has been hurt by injuries the last couple of years. I mean, he made his first NBA Finals in his 5th season, and then year 6 and year 7, they've been hurt by injuries in the playoffs. I think he definitely wants to give it another chance and then go from there.
A little unfinished business. Plus, there's not a lot of places you're going to go where you're playing with Russell Westbrook, who's one of the 5 best players in the league. Serge Ibaka, one of the 3 best defenders in the league. That's a nice core to start with there. There's not a lot of scenarios where he's going to be able to look at and say, if I go here, we have just as good of a team as what I'm leaving.
I would absolutely agree with that. I also, I mean, in terms of whether you want to get in the playoffs if you're OKC or play for the lottery, whatever, I wouldn't want to be the person to go to Russell Westbrook and say, hey, Russ,
chill, man.
Tone it down a little bit.
Rest you for a couple
Take
of
it
games.
easy. Yeah, we're going to rest you. Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
What he's been doing over the last little while now, 10 triple-doubles on the season, just racking them up left and right, and getting wins. This is what a weird week for the Thunder. They had the Serge Ibaka injury, now the KD setback, but they're playing some of their best basketball in terms of getting the wins because they've actually, we saw against the Heat at least, got some stops and looked like a defensive squad because they've, for the most part, been doing it offensively.
But as well, Russell Westbrook is sitting at home thinking he wants people to say you've got no chance against the Warriors. That's the greatest challenge for him right now.
It's very true.
He's going to go out there and do everything he can, obviously, to try to win that series. I mean, we know it'd be very, very tough. But there's one thing that would be good for fans to watch is Russell Westbrook angry, determined. They could easily steal a game or 2.
Yeah, it's funny with fans because they always complain that Russ was taking too many shots from KD, but now he's taking every shot he wants. Oh, shoot more. Shoot more. We want more shots. We want more of Russell Westbrook, even if it means their defense is terrible and their offense is just getting them by. I mean, the team isn't great, but they're winning basketball.
Do you think this means next year at least, another year of Coach Scott Brooks coaching hopefully a healthy squad in KD, Westbrook, and Serge Ibaka? Is this sort of like another built-in excuse because some people don't think he's the right coach for the squad, that he'll be there again?
I would guess so. The fact is he has the verbal backing of his players. The guys love him. And, we talk about Russell Westbrook and what he's shown and what he's become as an NBA player. Scott Brooks doesn't get the credit that he deserves for that. He's allowed Russell Westbrook to go bonkers and to become who he is. And, KD and Russ often lead a pretty predictable offense. That happens a little too much, and that's why they've come short or happened to lose some playoff series. But Scott Brooks does deserve some credit. Look at their winning percentage, and hopefully
defense is always solid.
Yeah, and hopefully Russ, becomes a little bit more of a playmaker next postseason because that's what I'm already looking forward to.
I don't think he'll make a change either, Presty, but I will be interested to see if Tom Thibodeau comes available. If Presty maybe just has a think about that because I think Thibodeau would be a good coach for this team. And I think, he's got all those ingredients that they need. Good defensive coach, disciplinarian, works hard. His teams are always competitive. But I'm purely speculating.
Yeah, you think Presty will be there. I think most people would agree with you. This is just going to be tough, I think, for Brooks here. Yes, you can let Westbrook go nuts, but the problem is he has some good defensive players that are okay defensive players but aren't great offensively. Then he has these great offensive players that struggle defensively.
Not a lot of two-way players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's where you forget about Kevin Durant. He's the scoring champ by all means, but he was a great defensive player too. Yeah. Pretty solid both ways.
Same with Serge.
Tough year for the Thunder. Tough year. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Captain Canada officially called it quits. We'll discuss his impact and his legacy after the break. Come on back. You're watching The Starters. Welcome back to The Starters. Unfortunately, no Bone Zone today because apparently Brent Barry is busy taking photos with Matt Bonner and Brian Scalabrine.
Gotta have red hair to hang out with Brent Barry, I guess.
2 Mambas, set of bones. So, no Bone Zone, but that's okay. We'll get to Bones hopefully next week when he joins us here at the table. We got some news, though. Lakers guard Steve Nash announced his retirement on Saturday, quietly ending a 19-year NBA career, played 18 seasons. That included 2 MVP awards and a whole lot of assists. He played in just 65 games over the past 3 seasons due to a number of injuries. But the 41-year-old formalized his departure with a letter there to the Players Tribune, where he's a senior producer of that website where the players' voice gets their word out there. A great article. I'm sure you guys have read it. Steve Nash. We talked about this before when we saw the writing on the wall, but again, officially, we will never see him on a basketball court again. Sort of sucks.
Yeah,
as a big fan.
I'm not sure who enjoyed him more, the guys that played with him or the fans watching him, because it was an absolute treat to watch, but also to play with him. He led the league's best offense for 9 straight years. That is an incredible mark to me.
Oh, yeah.
On both teams, both with Dallas and Phoenix, 3 years with Dallas, and then extended with Phoenix, which we all remember. He was part of everyone's second favorite team with the Phoenix Suns.
And Lee, you must love this. Not only an 8-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, of course, the 2 MVPs there in 05 and 06, but he ends his career right now as the best free throw shooter in NBA history. Lee Ellis loves the free throw, and Steve Nash, a bit better than Mark Price.
It's amazing, 90% over a career for a guy who had back problems for a lot of it. These back problems extended to his early days as well. And, I mean, to have a good back and a good spine is very important when you're shooting. You need good balance.
Dr. Ellis
have a nice
on the
spine.
scene. Dr.
Gotta have a good
Ellis.
spine.
He truly understood what it meant to be a point guard. He knew how to get everybody involved, and he knew how to shoot as well when he needed to. He could have easily scored a lot more points if he wanted to, but he didn't. He had different guys, different mouths to feed. Sean Marion on the fast break, Amari Stoudemire the pick and roll, Raja Bell, Quentin Richardson. Those guys became real stars when they played with Steve Nash. It's no surprise that they enjoyed their best years when he was there in Phoenix.
I'd say the one thing that he probably regrets, and he's sort of said the last couple of years while he's been with the Los Angeles Lakers, is that he didn't shoot more, and that he didn't. He's watching Steph Curry play right now, and he said, verbally in podcasts, that he could have been a guy who just shot a little bit more. Maybe his team would have sort of been, his teammates would have been respected a little bit more, because obviously the percentages are great, but he never scored a lot, as we all know.
Yeah, you see the numbers there. The third all-time in assists behind just John Stockton and Jason Kidd. 1 up on Mark Jackson.
Just gotcha.
Gotcha, buddy.
Oh, Mark Bust, hate that. But it is funny. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how history remembers Steve Nash, because of course you're immediately going to think of all the assists, but I wonder if that will stick, the idea of that he really was one of the greatest shooters in NBA history in terms of just metrics. Most people know he's a 4-time member there of the 50, 40, 90 club. I think it's only been done something like 10 times in NBA history. 50% from the floor, 40% from 3, and 90% from the line. I mean, he really, truly was one of the best shooters, let alone one of the best playmakers in the league.
And that's why he's one of the most influential players of our generation. No doubt, you look at every point guard in the league now, you have to be able to run pick and roll, and you have to be able to shoot. And that's basically because Steve Nash, in the early 2000s, revolutionized the point guard position with him and Mike D'Antoni. The offense they ran, high screen and roll, 3 shooters. That's what most NBA teams run now. You look at it and you see Steph Curry is the main guy. Basically, he is what Steve Nash would be if Steve Nash wanted to score. And I just think it's awesome to see that there are so many players who play Steve Nash's game, and they all kind of respect that they're playing Steve Nash's game.
It came at the perfect timing, too, in NBA history. Where,
man,
you remember, 2005, right, was what? The Spurs and the Pistons in the finals.
Yeah.
Those were some low-scoring games.
Yeah.
Yes, they changed the rules. The hand checking came into play, but it just worked perfectly. That then Nash teamed up with D'Antoni, and we got the 7 seconds or less. It just became entertaining basketball. And we see teams, and we've heard coaches allude to the fact that they've stolen from those squads. Pop, Budenholzer, all the entertaining teams. Steve Kerr, of course. Just good ball movement, fast shots,
Keeping
entertaining
the ball going,
basketball. Keep the ball zipping around.
It felt like with Steve Nash, the ball was either in his hand for 1 second and he made a pass, or he dribbled to the right exact moment to find someone who was open for a shot. And I think another thing, Trey, you're talking about point guards now today, I think the highest compliment you can pay to Steve Nash is a lot of players replicate the way that he plays, especially when you see them dribbling into the lane like here with Kyrie Irving and finishing with that one-handed layup.
Not putting the second hand on the ball.
Because, these guys are about the same sort of size as Steve Nash, and if you're going to get a shot up in the paint, you have to make sure that the guy, a shot blocker, can't get to it. And one way to do that is to release it before they even have a chance, thinking you're going to get it up. And here's another one, Steph Curry, that's slightly different, but it's more of that high arc, that layup that he finishes with. And I think everyone's trying to do that today. Here's what Steph Curry had to say about him. Shout out to Steve Nash, hanging it up for good. Inspired me to play the way I do and paved the way. Congrats on all your success and enjoy life.
Steve Nash was good, but he doesn't have the record for the most points scored by a Canadian-born player. Because he wasn't born in Canada.
Wow, what a factoid.
Who's the leader?
Rick Fox?
Rick Fox.
There we go. He was born in South Africa, but owned by Canada, no doubt. And that's where, I'll admit, to being completely biased when it comes to Steve Nash. Being Canadian, being short, loving the NBA. It is Steve Nash, Akeem Olajuwon, and everyone else in terms of my favorite basketball players of all time. No doubt.
The other thing is with Steve Nash, he played below the rim. And again, we talk about that when you're not an athletic superstar, you can still be so effective because of how you use the ball and how you get your teammates involved. And even when you go back to those Dallas days, they were always fun teams to watch. I don't remember watching a Steve Nash game ever thinking, his team's boring. It was always a lot of scoring, lots of fun. The defense wasn't always their strength, but it didn't really matter when they had such a powerful offense.
Steve Nash always comes up, I think, when people get into arguments about athleticism. Because you're right, he wasn't, obviously Steve Nash is not throwing down dunks like Gerald Green or Vince Carter or anything like that. But I actually would argue that he is one of the most athletic players ever.
Yeah.
Because by all accounts, what people say is he could have played any sport. Could have been a professional soccer player probably a professional hockey player growing up in Canada.
Pong.
He's awesome at ping pong. He is one of those people that just seems to be talented at every single sport that he takes up because of hand-eye coordination, balance, and all that. Do you know what I mean, though? He's not obviously the strongest guy, not jumping the highest.
Awesome
but
footwork, and like you're saying, he could use either hand for passing, for shooting. He could just do anything on the basketball court. He didn't love to play defense, but I guess he would try. Wouldn't always be in the same spot, but he had that great spine, those great free throws. He was awesome to watch.
He would have been immortalized if he got a title. It just didn't happen, whether it be in defense, whether it be suspensions. It just didn't work out. 3 conference finals, though. Some great accomplishments.
He'll always be in the conversation as one of the greatest point guards ever, but you're right. We'll never be at the top of the list because he never got the ring. That's the truth. Same thing with Barkley, right?
For sure.
Really, when it comes to it, he's going to be on the short list, but never the best. All right, got to take a break. When we return, an oversized edition of Weekend Whoopsies. We haven't had a show since Wednesday, so it's a super edition of Weekend Whoopsies.
Yeah, this baby's from Thursday, the classic Weekend Whoopsie, Lou Amundsen.
A little too much roll on that finger roll.
Just a little short. Also Thursday, watch out this great defense by the Nuggets on James Harden. Now, you're not going to believe this. Harden went for 50 this game.
Wow.
I have no idea why. Maybe it was backing up 20 feet from the guy.
Got to protect that rim.
Oh, here comes Blake Griffin with the slip and slide. Watch out, cameraman, he's coming. Oh, just a little short, but that was a heck of a slide.
He's got good form on that.
He's coming. Here he comes. Right into your
living room. It really does go.
Just keeps going.
Like a foot or two longer than you would think. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Friday night, Steph Curry was having a rough game against the Pelicans, and this poor kid, he couldn't believe this one didn't go down. What?
What are you doing, Steph?
He couldn't believe it. Look at that. In and out. What? Even Dad's upset.
He's not even got Steph Curry's jersey on. What's he doing?
Yeah.
This shirtless man lost his shirt, but he didn't lose his speed or his hops.
Oh, get up there. Oh, yes.
Look at him get going. When you get that speed going.
That's pretty impressive. He doesn't look very tall.
I mean, it's a trampoline. I don't know how.
He's not,
he's not very tall.
5'5". Good stuff. Andrew Bogut does not want to share a towel. I don't know if this is an Australian thing, Lee.
No, we don't like sharing towels in Australia.
Like Rudy Gobert just wants to wipe his hands. Look, he's wiping them on his short. No. Bogut, not only takes it away at the beginning, but then does the old little sort of fake out. Like, you want this? Well, you're not getting it.
Great face from Bogut.
Look how upset. My towel. Yeah, look how upset he is.
Get out of here, Gobi, is what he's saying.
A one-towel performance.
We get to see a lively Tim Dunk. You don't get to see that often. Doing a little dance with Thiago Splitter. Now, I believe he's saying Thiago had a great game. He had 23 points. I believe he's like, all you had to do was catch the ball, just go fake, and then throw it up.
It's the awkward dad dance.
Yeah, let's get him on it.
Same game. Rough play for Jeff Teague. Just airballs the two-hand dunk. I mean, I think he got caught between do I lay it in, do I dunk it?
Yeah.
Maybe fouled by a ghost?
Yeah, Rick Hamlin thinks he was fouled by a ghost. Who knows? Who knows? It was a bad day for the Hawks.
On Sunday, J.R. Smith wide open in the corner for his 7th made 3-ball. And he lets the Bucks know, how do you leave a guy who's hit 6 threes open? You got to show me the respect of a Kyle Korver, a Steph Curry. Come get me. 7 threes, you leave me wide open like this?
He's
Come
so
on.
angry.
I am J.R. Smith.
Come on, guys. How dare you? How dare you? There it is. Again, a super edition of Weekend Whoopsies. Got one more little fun thing here. Bulls mascot, Benny the Bull, celebrated his birthday on Friday in style. Wow. With a whole bunch of popcorn.
Source close to Benny tells me there was 450 boxes of popcorn here, and they were all recycled.
Okay.
It's Green Week after all.
Were they buttered? Were they buttered or not?
Impossible to know.
Sticky. Todd, get the popcorn!
How old is Benny then?
4,000 years old. The age is in Poland.
There you go.
All right, unleash the Starters Fantasy Unicorn. Seeing as it's Monday, we've got your pickups of the week presented by the General Insurance. Lee, people are into the playoffs. Help him out.
Jameer Nelson is on a nice little run right now. 14 points on 53% shooting with almost 3 threes a game over his last 6. The grindfather, Tony Allen, has returned to the Memphis Grizzlies starting lineup over the last 2 games. He's responded with 11 points, 9 rebounds and 4 steals per game, as well as 64% shooting. But Bojan Bogdanovic is the man to grab right now. He has been on fire. He scored 21 in 2 of his last 4, and he went 8 for 8 from the floor against the Pacers on Saturday night, including 3 for 3 from downtown. And he is very likely available, only 13% owned in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues right now. Bit of a chance for Rookie of the Year, but probably not. But,
probably not.
Yeah, but he's been playing really well.
He's got about a 0% chance.
But it's a bit of a wide open race for Rookie of the Year. Anyway, grab Bojo if you can.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bojo. The Brooklyn Nets are the weirdest
Sounds like
team
a
in the NBA.
There's still a chance.
They're impossible to figure out. They're horrible one week and then they look great the next. All right, one more break. When we come back, final break. And then we'll get to pick and payoff results and Lili's. Very solid play. Back with the starters. We didn't have a show on Thursday and Friday because of March Madness, so we're looking at Wednesday night's pick and payoff results. I went 3-2, TAS 2-3, so I gained another game on TAS in the month of March. I'm up 4 games. I'm 40-22, TAS 36-26. So let's get to tonight's picks. We agree on them for the most part. We like the Nets, the Bulls, the Jazz, and the Warriors. The one game we disagree on, I'll take the Pacers at home, so I'm taking all 5 home teams, and you got the Rockets on the road.
Looking forward to that one.
Got an NBA TV doubleheader tonight. Coverage beginning right after us here on NBA TV, right after the starters, Rockets and Pacers. Pacers a half game out of the playoff spot. James Harden taking on them. And then the late game looks great. Wizards and Warriors, Wall versus Curry should be an interesting matchup, so check out that one. Again, both those games here on the network. Lee, where are we going for the very solid play? Wait, I know where we're going. You were down at the Fortress for the Spurs and Hawks yesterday.
I was, so yes, it is coming from the San Antonio Spurs. Now, you might think a missed shot, what's going on with the Spurs? But they turn it into a gorgeous, very solid play. Kawhi Leonard was absolutely brilliant yesterday. Here's one of the 7 assists he had. A couple of them actually went to Thiago Splitter. Look at this again. Kawhi with his big claw hand here, just wraps it around the defenders. Yep. Thiago gets the layup, and that's what I call a very solid play.
There it is. Why, do you have a sticker on your hand?
Yeah, sorry. It's a Piston Cup. I was playing Lightning McQueen this morning with my son, and I got the Piston Cup sticker.
All right, excellent. All right, guys. As I said, enjoy the games tonight here on the network. We'll be back tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Are you just showing it? Oh, you're just showing it for people.
Yeah,
all right.
There it is.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, do you have a quote about a tattoo?
The Piston Cup. No, tattoos. They're not there for life, unless you have them removed.
Embrace the night, people.